going to share with you a little bit of an update to some of my organization systems. So if you remember back in the early fall, late summer, I shared a craft room makeover where I completely went through and updated my space to make room for more of a dedicated work area in my computer station, as well as just purge some things and reorganize and freshen up my space. Well, at the beginning of the new year, 2020 started, and I decided that I wanted to purge a few more things and get a little bit more organized in a couple of areas that were just sort of sore spots or trouble spots for me. Things that just weren't as effective or efficient as I wanted them to be, and I thought that they could be improved. So I'm going to walk you through a few of the updates that I made over the last few weeks and share with you some of the organizational systems that I'm using, as well as some of the like containers and things. So let's get to it. All right, so the first bit of updated organization that I would like to share with you is my LA Studio stamp. So I'm going to go through. This is just a little bin that I took down into the living room the other night while my husband and I were watching television. So it's got my label maker in there. It has all of my stamp storage pockets, the papers that I used in the background to fill them up, which you'll see in a second, and a pair of scissors so I could cut my labels because I don't like all the extra space on the labels. So just a little bit of backstory. So I was storing these in, these are my LA Studio stamps, this whole bin. And so I was storing these in just the packaging that they come in. Like the plastic thing, I would just cut the top off where it's like crimped and sealed, cut the top off, and then it would make its own little pocket. And that lasted really great for some of these stamp sets are 2 years old. But then a lot of the plastic started to fall apart, especially on some of these bigger sets that these are like 6x8 sets. And so my stamps were kind of falling out. It just started to look really messy. All of my other stamps that I have for like actual stamping, or most of my other stamps, my acrylic stamps, are stored in stamp pockets in this same exact system. So a little bit of continuity. It's clean. It's nice looking. I like it. So what I did is for Christmas, I actually asked there was this bundle on Amazon of Avery L pockets because I needed multiple sizes. So these are the largest ones. These are 5.5 by 7 3/8. 50 of those. I used, I think 12. Oh, I'm sorry. Those aren't the biggest ones. Those are the medium sized ones. The largest size that I needed for my big Jane alphas were 6 3/4 by 9 3/8. So use those. And then it came with a smaller pack, which I didn't necessarily have a need for at this time because I still have some that are this size. But I have them on hand now for other things. And then what I like to do is just cut down some cheap cardstock. This is just like flimsy paper. Like it's not really good quality or anything. I just use it to fill my pockets and cut it down so it's just inside the size of the pocket, which if you take one of these, you can see here. So it just fits just barely inside that inner edge. And so I just measured the size of the pocket and then cut a bunch of these to go inside. Those are all extra, so they'll just get stored with my pockets in the drawer that I have them in for use with more stamps that I get. And so my stamps are stored in this just plastic bin. It is a challenge to find bins that are wide enough to hold these big pouches, just in general. You can see there's a little bit of a bend that's happening on the corners of these because the inside of this tray is rounded. But this came from IKEA. It came with a lid. The lid's just currently in my closet. And so what I did is I went through, these are my large Jane alpha dies that are all cut up. These are smaller pockets. This style is actually from Simon Says Stamp, not Avery Elm. The rest of these are from Avery Elm. And so it's just the pocket. I actually don't, it has a flap on them. But I don't use that flap because I want just quick, easy access. I'm not worried about them getting dusty or anything like that. And so I just tuck that in the back behind the paper. And then this is like these are my Stanley Alphas. And so they're really small, so I can fit 2 of them in one pouch. But other stamp sets that are like the mini dated are just in there. And there's extra room, and that's okay with me. It's totally fine because it's uniform, and I like that. So I've just got them all sorted by sort of type. So I've got alphas, then like things that are dated, and then sort of just going through sort of current or favorite stamp sets. So these are the medium-sized stamp sets. And then I have the large Jane Alphas all together. So, and again, I'm just doing, my label maker can do a double line, which was a feature that I wanted when I upgraded a couple of years ago. And so I've got the manufacturer on the top and the name of the stamp set on the bottom so that I can always look it up if I need to. Because I'm on the design team, I also need to check and make sure that as I'm using these things for projects, for design team work, that they're still in stock. And so that's a great way for me to be able to check and see what's still available. There's my Jane Alpha outlines. Then I've got the numbers for those both together. Polka dots, stripes, numbers for polka dots and stripes together. And then the star print actually didn't come. So like these all came out together. Actually, I think maybe the solids and the outline came out, and then the polka dot and the stripes came out at the same time. So these sets are actually, this is one set. Like this is all the same size as the big alphas, and was manufactured this way. But the star set, and there's another set that came, the peppermint stripe. I have that in with my Christmas stuff, since I'm not likely to use that throughout the rest of the year. But this came as the alphabet by itself, and then the numbers were a smaller stamp set. So what I did is just flipped it over. You'll see on the front, it's got 2 labels. And so I've got the alphas and the numbers, and they're all stored in there together, and that's just fine. It's not very thick. It's not really that much thicker than the other, so it doesn't cause any problems. Magical memories, and then here and now noted, and then the title builder sets are in the back here, and it's all 3 of them. Another place where I store if they have coordinating dies. So for example, this everyday tabs, and I've added with dies. So this set has 2 metal dies, and so I just stored them in the back pocket so that I don't lose them. I don't have to store them separately. They're here when I want to use this stamp and this set, so that works out really great. The other thing that I have been doing is with my dies, I don't store these with the Jane Alphas because they coordinate with multiple sets. They kind of go with all of those alphabets, and there's too many of them. It would get really bulky, I think. But what I like to do with my dies is extra dies that I've cut that I ended up not using, I just slip into the back of the pocket. And so here, these are some things that were left over from December Daily that I never ended up using. Sorry, I was just trying to get that stuck back in. And so I store my extra cutouts in the back there in case I want to ever use them. And these were all a bunch of vellum pieces from a couple different projects that I have in here. So that is an update on my LA Studio stamps and sort of converting them into stamp pockets, which, yes, is money. Yes, it's more plastic in the world. But I tried just keeping them in their original packaging to sort of save on all of that. And that worked for a period of time, but it did, you know, it's not meant for long-term storage. It's meant for sort of shipping and getting out. And so with the amount that I use my stamps, the packaging just couldn't hold up over time. So yeah, let's move on to the next bit. before we move on completely, I just wanted to show you. So this is my IKEA Raskog, one of them. I've got two. One for mostly Ellie Studio stuff. That one is all Allie Edwards stuff. And so that bin fits right in the top here. So my stamps are all really super easily accessible. And then I've got one of the IKEA Dragnan boxes, the bamboo boxes that holds a couple of little stamp sets that I haven't packaged, like I don't really have a pocket for them. And just some like, these are like wood veneer and things that I want to use. So yeah. So the next bit is page protector storage. So let's talk about that a little bit. So I have page protectors for all sizes from 3x8 all the way up to 12x12. And if you remember from my room tour, I was storing them all over here. I had like a handled carry-on thing or carrier thing that I was using for a lot of my Project Life divided pocket pages. And then I sort of had a one of these crapper hopper things, but in 8.5x11 size that I had all of my smaller ones divided into. And it really was just, it was too full. The way, this is my desk, right? And so I'm sitting here, I want it to be within arm's reach, but I couldn't really get them out because it was stored sort of horizontally in the container. It's hard to explain. You have to go back and watch my video. But I had one of these. This is a crapper hopper. This is so old. I bought this at Michael's or AC Moore probably 20 years ago, 15 years ago at least. And it's got it's got a lid that goes with it. And then it has this like section that goes, or this divided thing that fits inside that you can actually remove, but it helps keep things organized. And so then the lid would go on and it sits on the shelf. I have been using this for years for organizing my handmade greeting cards. I was a card maker. I've been a card maker all along. Sorry for my finger in the shot there. I've been a card maker all along. Even before I was a scrapbooker, I was a card maker. And so this worked really good for being able, you can still see some of the tabs are in there, like get well cards. Thinking of you, I didn't take them out because it doesn't matter to me. But what I did is I just converted this over. I moved my cards someplace else. I don't have as many anymore because I'm not making cards as often. And then I just converted this to store my 3x8 and 6x8 page protectors. And so this is the same system I had before. I had to make a couple new ones because we have a couple new formats, like the 2 3x8 is a new format of 6x8 that came out this year. But these are just cardstock pieces that I cut down in colors that make me happy. And so right in front in each of those little divided sections, I have like, this is 3x8s that are broken down into 3x4s, the ones that are divided to 3x6, and then the full size 3x8. And then it goes through, these are the same breakdown for 6x8. And then back here, we've got the 4x6s and the 2x2. So that's the one that looks like that with the 2x2s on the bottom. And then full 2x2s at the end. In the back, I've got a couple of traveler's notebooks that I have not used yet for anything. And so this is working so much better on my desk so far. So what I've done here is part of my desk is just this little open up storage area. So I've got the lid flipped back. I actually converted this over, and this is my Basil cardstock, my white cardstock that I use, my 12x12. These are some color swatches and templates. These are just pocket holders, the same thing I use to hold my cardstock in my dividers. And this is the sticker sheet thing, and then my color swatches. So everything that I use often and need to have right at my fingertips is now actually right at my fingertips, and I can easily get it out. So the lid just goes down in the bottom there, and this guy will just sit flush inside there. And so it works out really great. And I still have some space over here for some other things. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, it's really easy to just see what I have, to see what I'm low on, which is currently not really anything. The 2 3x8s, I used those in my week in the life this year, so I need to reorder some of those maybe if I want to use them in a project. But yeah, so it's really, this is working so much better for me so far in the new year. All right, and then if you remember, there's the dog bed on the back side of my room. So behind my desk, I've got this shelf here. This is an IKEA, an old IKEA kitchen island is what it's intended for, that I've had for a very long time and have been using in my craft room. And so initially, when I shared my walkthrough, I had this whole bottom shelf was full of these iris containers. These are amazing plastic containers. They're those like 12 by 12 storage containers. I was lucky enough to get a bunch of the insert trays before they discontinued them. So that's primarily what I use for like storing kits and things like big kits like December Daily. This is all December Daily stuff. Travel, that one's empty. But what I really wanted was some easy access. I noticed that in one of the Allie Edwards, in Allie Edwards' craft room, I noticed that she is using paper trays to store her page protectors, I believe, behind her desk. And so I loved that idea. So I put them on my wish list for Christmas. I was lucky enough to get them. And so what I did here, these are from We Are Memory Keepers. You can get them on Amazon. They come 4 to a pack, and they're like $20 or $25 for a 4-pack. So not too expensive. And so what I wanted is for all my large page protector storage. So I used my label maker. I added labels for all the different sizes that I have. You can't see this bottom one, but it's 12 by 12. So I've got 12 by 12 here. Then on top of that, I've got, these are 12 by 12 pocket pages. These are design A. Oh, is that a design A? Yes, it is. Thought I was fibbing. There we go. Design A, which is like the only 12 by 12 page protector that I really use, pocket page protector that I really use. And then this year I'm switching to 9 by 12 for my project life. And I have some 9 by 12 travel albums that I'm going to be working on. So I have 9 by 12. These are just like the full sheet 9 by 12. These are 9 by 12s, which I use the Allie Edwards coding because that's where I'm likely to order them from. And so this is the code that she has for each of the different ones. But then over here on this side, what I did is break it down to like what size photos are, or which size pockets go in there. So this one is the 3x4 and 4x6s. This is all 3x4s. This one's all 3x3s. And then on the top, I just have 6x12. And so currently I just have them stored. These I got from Studio Calico. So on the top here, these are 3x4s. Because that's what I have. I only have like, 4 of them there, 5 of them, and they're all loose. But then I had packages that I could mark out like, okay, these are all, and I just cut the end off of one package so it makes a little pocket. So I'm storing it that way. And so these are the, 3 4x6s. This is a multi-pack, and so what I did here is just mark off like it's not any of these. This is a 3x4. So actually, I may have just stuck these out of the way. Are these the same thing? Oh no, these are 4x6 and 3x4. So I didn't have a place for those. So if I order more, I'll save the packaging to do that. And then the 3x3s, and then just plain 6x12 there. And I could do them side by side. They would maybe fit, but they're not going to fit that great because the page protector is bigger than the, yes, this is meant for 12 by 12 paper, but the page protectors are slightly bigger. So just having them all in one stack is totally fine by me. It works. I don't have any problem with that solution. And I am loving having this down here. So what I did to make room for it is just, I'll show you in one second. Let me get the rest of these in here. Okay. So what I did to make room for it is those 3 extra containers that were here, because I can only hold 3 of these at a time. A 4th one actually won't fit here. It's a little too narrow. And so the 3 extras, boom, 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 are right underneath. It's not space I use. I don't need to go under there for anything. These are a couple of shipping boxes that have current design team commitments in them, or kits in them. And then this thing is what I was storing. It's what I'm still storing all of my Project Life pocket pages in. So like, let's see if I can flip this around. Here we go. So you can see, and it's just like one of those accordion folder things. It's Cropper Hopper 2. Really old. I bought it a long time ago. And so inside are just the different page protectors. But again, I don't use this variety very often. And so storing it underneath this shelf is totally fine. I know where it is if I need it. It's right underneath all the other page protectors. But when I don't need it, it doesn't need to be. It used to be in that little cubby hole on my desk that I wasn't using it at all. So just taking up valuable space, precious, precious desk space. All right, so that is update number 3. Actually, I guess technically that's only update number 2 because that's page protectors. So the other thing that I am doing that's not really organizational, it's a little organizational. I have this little bin. These are from IKEA. It had wood veneer in it at some point in time. Yep, from IKEA. I just have a lot of random, IKEA storage is great because it's inexpensive. And so at one point I bought just a bunch of little things because I wasn't sure how I was going to redo my room at one point. What I found is that I have, as I was going through, at the beginning of the year, I went through and purged a lot of cards and embellishments and things that I am not likely to use. So I have a big box going for donation or giveaway. And so when I came across something that I thought sparked a story for me, and I wanted to remember that right away, I was like, I don't have a way to keep these separate from the rest of my storage, or the rest of my journaling cards or filler cards. And so I decided to start this little thing I'm calling Story Box, which is kind of cute. And so cards that are sparking a story for me. So like this little section here, I have them segmented with a little Post-it note just wrapped around them that says unemployment. So if you've been following along, you know that my husband and I were unemployed for the whole second half of 2019. And these cards sort of endings or beginnings was perfect. Like I've had this one set aside all summer long to use that I just haven't used for a project yet, related to sort of thoughts and feelings about the end of that job and that phase of our lives, really, because it was not just a job. It was so much more than just a job for us. There's so much life to be lived in the in-between. These are all Allie Edwards products. What feels like the end is often the beginning. So just things that really fit in with being, one part of our lives ending and something new starting. Embracing change one day in the middle of the mess, one day at a time. The best of the not so great. We had a lot of really good times, and a lot of good things happened in the last 6 months of the year, despite the fact that we were sort of struggling with, unemployment and what that meant for our family. And so that's one little section that I have. These are things from the fabric kit, a story kit. And so wanting to write stories about my grandmother's Afghans that she's made me, and my grandfather's furniture that I have. I have a dresser and a toy box from him. And so just setting aside cards that make me think of that or go along with that. So my thought with this is just anytime that I have cards that have been in my stash for a while, but that I still want to use or spark a story for me right away, I'm going to put them in this box. And so if I'm looking for stories to tell for my story albums this year, here's what I'm growing right now. Things that make you, you. And then there's one, I think, with it, things that make me, me. Those were from a Stories by the Month kit. Things that you know, I want to tell the story of, I'm just going to put in here. And then when I'm looking for stories to tell, just go ahead, pull one out and sort of use it as a spark. And whether or not I use the actual product, that's to be determined. But just having, you know, so it's kind of like a little journal or a little kickstart box of like things to pull from when I'm feeling stuck. Bring on the self-care, mom stories, dad stories. And again, not necessarily that I love these products or will use them, but they sparked a story idea for me. And there's some 4x6 in here as well. I also have some of Allie's, what are these called? They are called marketing cards for some of her story kits. So this one is about changes. This is from the Change Story Kit. And so it's got a pretty design on the front with a handwritten quote from Allie. But then on the back, it's got some of the story ideas that come from the class. And so, you know, just again, a little story box of inspiration, of ideas, of things that spark an idea with me when I'm going through and I'm decluttering my stash or considering, like, you know, getting rid of things. Are there things in there? And my idea is to just keep it right on my desk again, so it's easy access and I can go to it when I need to. Okay, and my final storage update or organizational update that I have for you today is based on numbers. So in December, you know, we use numbers a lot for our December daily projects, and I was struggling with now having more sets of numbers. You know, I'm just collecting more and more sets of numbers that I use for that project, but that I also use for other projects throughout the year. However, they were only being stored in my December daily because that's where they made sense to store at the time for me. And so what I realized is at the end of December that I wanted them out with some of the rest of my stash because I didn't want to have to dig into my December daily stuff to pull them out. That wasn't going to be very convenient. I don't think this is not the right thing, but I'll talk about this in a second. All right, here we go. So these are kind of a companion. So it starts with this. This is an IKEA container. It's just a plastic container. These are, this is a bag that the Stories by the Month kit comes in. It's like a plastic zipper bag. These are pouch that are really, really nice. I use it to store my acrylic words from the story kits. And then I've got some miscellaneous stamp sets in here. And then I'm using the old, these are the old story kit envelopes. These are the short ones that came with the striped. I've also got a big one, a current one in here. And so when I break apart my story kits and put them in with the rest of my stash, I then am using this bin is all alphabets. So this is a chipboard alpha, 2 chipboard alphas, 3 chipboard alphas. These are really old ghost alphabets from Heidi Swap. And so that's what I'm using to store my alphabets. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I could do something similar for my numbers. And so what I did is I used an extra dragon box from IKEA. These are bamboo. They can be found in the bathroom section. This is what I use to store all of my journaling cards, 3x4 and 4x6. And so I had a spare one left over. And so what I did is I pulled out, I used all the same height these are all previous story kit envelopes. I've been a subscriber for a long time. And so what I did is I separated by type of number. So these are all cork numbers. So there's a few different styles in here. These are all in a package together. These came in December daily. These big ones were from a week in the life kit. And so now I've got all my cork numbers in this envelope. The next one is acetate. So these are all acetate numbers of varying sizes and shapes and designs from different kits. Then I've got gold chipboard. These I kept by themselves because I have a lot of them still and I couldn't fit more in there. And then white chipboard numbers. These are big white, like paper numbers, die cut numbers. I don't even know where I got them from. They're old. I've had them for a long time. Wood veneer numbers. These are Ellie Studio. And then these are giant wood veneer numbers. These are what came in the, you could get these in December Daily in the 2019 kit. And so I used a couple of them in my album, but I didn't use very many, so I still have them. So now I have this little bin that lives on my Raskog that has all my numbers in it. And I'm really happy with that, really pleased to have something that's very similar. So I sort of know, like, oh, right, I have all my numbers together someplace. Like I have all my alphabets together someplace. So, and again, those live on my cart, which I just pull over next to my desk when I am ready to work. So those are all of the updates that I have made in the last couple of weeks to my scrap room. I hope that you found something that's useful or inspiring or helpful. If you have any questions, please go ahead and leave a comment below. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing. And if you do subscribe, please click the bell to get notifications when new videos go up. There will be I have a lot planned for 2020 that I can't wait to share with all of you. So thanks for checking out the video today. Again, I hope that you found something useful. Take care.